I posted my video game music every single day on almost every single platform for a year. Let's talk about it. Quick disclaimer, at the point of recording this video I've reached a full year on YouTube, LinkedIn and TikTok. The other platforms are slowly catching up and will soon be there. It's just because I originally didn't intend to post everywhere at the same time. Now before we begin, why did I even do it? What was the purpose of it all? I've been working as a game composer even before I started this challenge, but I've always felt like my social media game wasn't quite there yet. It was hard for me to get my music discovered by new people and make meaningful connections in the industry. I had a solid demo reel, I had a few credits, I've been sending out a lot of pitches, but there is one thing that is very important in this industry, and that is trust. And trust is built when you know a person, when you keep seeing them on a regular basis, when you keep interacting with them over and over again. As someone who is somewhat introverted, I've never really liked making content, and that's simply because I didn't have a type of content that I enjoyed making constantly. I like being in the studio, writing music, working on different projects, but I've never really enjoyed making videos because I kept overthinking it, trying to make everything as perfect as possible, re-recording the same phrases for 20 times and so on. But then one day I saw someone on TikTok who just kept posting very basic videos of them singing along to their music in just regular home clothes, without any particular color grading or effort to the editing, and a simple count of days from when they started posting their music. And they were killing it. And that's kind of where it clicked for me. It didn't have to be anything special, it just had to be consistent. I already had a huge catalog of the music that I wrote, and there was a lot of music out there that I was really proud of. So why not just share it? And that was pretty much at the core of my philosophy with this challenge. I wanted to trim it down to just sharing my video game music consistently for at least a year, without all of the trend chasing or the influencer stuff, even if that meant that I wouldn't go viral. And so, a year ago I started the hardest challenge so far. At first I thought of this one catchphrase that I used pretty much everywhere except for YouTube Shorts. They this and that of fighting the algorithm to show you my video game music. It was a relatable phrase because everyone knows that social media doesn't treat artists fairly, and that it's always been an uphill battle, and the day count held me accountable for my consistency. Now the only thing I should have realized before I started all of that is that there would be people who would misinterpret that. This day count didn't mean the amount of days since I've been making music, because that journey started about 10 years ago. It was a day count for my regular posts. So let's talk about what I wanted to achieve with it and whether or not it worked. Firstly, as I mentioned, I wanted to solve this issue that I've always had, that I've always been struggling with, social media consistency. And I think that one went pretty well, as the experience shows. I posted 3 times a day on TikTok, 4 times a day on YouTube Shorts, 1 or 2 times a day on Instagram, 3 times a day on LinkedIn, and about the same amount on some other platforms. A lot of it boiled down to me just choosing one day a week to make a huge batch of content, and then with the exception of TikTok and Instagram, I use scheduling tools to free up some time and post constantly. As I went on, I've noticed that my content needed some variety, and not so long ago I've actually started introducing new formats. Apart from my regular music releases, I also added an orchestral sketches format to share my unreleased music, and I've also been making long-form YouTube videos for a little over a month now. Now the second thing that I wanted to achieve was to make new connections in the industry, and honestly, I think it went much better than I expected. I've noticed that even though my content was very simple, for some people it became almost like a daily routine to spend a few days to check the bits of music that I uploaded in my short videos. And it still doesn't feel quite real to me, to be honest. Over the course of this experiment, I've connected with so many people across video games, films, production music, and made so many new friends. Every now and then there were also moments where I had to pinch myself a bit, because some of the people whose work always inspired me reached out to me, or we connected in some other way. One of such interactions actually kind of stuck with me, and I don't think he even remembers it at this point, but it was one of those simple gestures that meant more than one would think. And that is when the composer Jason Graves reposted and complimented my music. And from the very beginning of my journey, Jason has always been kind of like a video game music hero to me. He himself has tons of great educational content out there. I have learned a lot from him, and he has written so much incredible music over the span of his career. You have most definitely heard it somewhere. So waking up to a notification like that felt very surreal to me, but at the same time, it inspired me for a long time. On the career side of things, everything has also started changing rapidly. I've been getting more requests than ever, sometimes even completely outside of my usual genres. Not so long ago I teamed up with a game audio company, which is a small but very dedicated team of amazing composers and sound designers, and together we overtook all of the audio aspects for a VR game. Personally, I worked on music and mixing there. Other than that, I'm currently writing an album for a sync music company, and there might also be one more in the works very soon. And what I'm really excited about is that there are a few very fun projects scheduled for the end of this year and the beginning of the next one. So I'm really looking forward to those. As for the numbers, of course I've grown on almost every single social media platform I've been posting constantly on. Well, with the exception of Instagram, maybe for some reason it never really clicked with me. But pretty much everywhere else, I got from hundreds to thousands of new followers. People have started reaching out for advice to me, and I've actually helped quite a few beginner composers this year, which I'm really happy about. But probably the most important lesson that I've learned is that numbers don't really matter to me. On an emotional level, it doesn't really register for me if it's 5,000 or 500 followers, whether the video went viral or if it got 100 views. Of course, sometimes it does feel bad when you put a lot of effort into something, into a piece of music or a piece of content, and it gets less views than something that you did in a couple of hours. But still, the more I do it, the less I care about things like that. What is important though, is the connections I make every day. Whether it's people who are just starting out in the industry and want to know more about it, or industry professionals who just want to work together. Connections are at the core of this industry, and every day I make a new friend is a good day for me. So if you want to connect, please feel free to reach out. One interesting thing that I've noticed is that forcing myself to be consistent with posting actually forced me to treat myself on a more professional level. By constantly putting my work out there, I subconsciously started to analyze myself more and just notice things that still need to be improved on. And even with all the imposter syndrome that all of us in the industry are experiencing, I became more confident in my abilities, and making videos where I'm explaining my thought process when writing music or working on different projects helped me learn how to give more thought to what I'm actually doing. This, combined with the fact that I also prioritized demo reel feedback this year, at least I think, has helped me improve both my composing and business abilities. Speaking of demo reel feedback, I genuinely can't recommend it enough. If you are a creative person starting out in this industry, reach out to professionals to see if there is anything you could improve on, because there always is. And you probably didn't even know about it because of how subjective we get to our work. There was actually one piece of feedback that I got that triggered an entire chain of changes in the way I approach music. Now, out of respect for this person's privacy, I won't say exactly who it was, but it was someone from one of the companies that I've always admired, CD Projekt Red. They kindly took their time to listen through the music, to analyze the visuals, and gave me quite an extensive piece of advice on pretty much every aspect of it. It was way more than I expected to get, and it was all such practical advice for which I'm extremely grateful. It forced me to look at certain things at a different angle, and hopefully I managed to improve. So once again, feedback is very important, and be ready to take in the constructive criticism that you get. And don't take it personally, because if it actually is constructive criticism and not something with a malicious intent, then the person is probably just trying to help you. They don't mean to offend your craft. Also, as a side note about feedback, huge thanks to Alex Pfeffer for mentoring me through all of this time, for all the advice and for all the demo reel feedback. It was incredibly valuable for me. If you're just starting out as a composer, Alex's community is probably one of the best places to learn, no matter what stage of career you're at. So what's next for me? Well, I will still continue making my daily posts, although this year I want to prioritize quality over quantity, and actually try and inspire and help people. Posting at this volume takes quite a lot of time, and after all, I'm a working composer and I want to spend more time working on different projects and improving my skills. There is new music hopefully coming out soon, quite a few interesting videos that I've planned, and if you have any suggestions on what I could try next with my content, feel free to let me know in the comments. That's it from me for today. Thank you to everyone who supported me on this journey so far, and here's to the new adventures. Thank you, and I see you on the next one. Cheers.